And just hello, hello, hello. Hopefully everyone's joining here. Sorry to start a few minutes late, a few technical issues, different panelists, links, etc., etc. But hopefully that gave you a moment to breathe whilst you waited. And Josie, have we got everyone in the room now?
Think they're just coming in yet. Looks like it.
Yeah, lovely. Welcome everyone. Lovely to see you here. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to get going. I do apologize to keep you waiting there for a few moments. And I just wanted to give you a big, warm, on purpose welcome and thank you all for spending your lunchtime with us, your precious moment to breathe. I'm Leah and I co lead On Purpose London, and I'm also an On Purpose Fellow myself. And like many fellows will hopefully tell you, the programme, for me anyway, was really transformational. So after a successful career in media and marketing, the program really has opened the door to systems thinking for me and what truly purpose-led work means, and really importantly, a community of people who've continually and continue to challenge my thinking and support me on my journey in incredible ways. And today, I'm joined by two brilliant leaders who are very much part of the purpose community themselves, women who are not only hosting our associates right now, but are also actively shaping how purpose-led organizations evolve in this increasingly changing world. We've got Aisha Washington, who's the founding CEO of Purposeful Ventures, which is a key organization incubating, launching, scaling initiatives that support young people across education and well-being. And Aisha played a key role in Purposeful Ventures' independence from ARC, and she brings a rich background in strategy and consulting from Bain, Bridgeban, and the public sector. And her team at the moment is hosting two of our associates. And in their ARC days, they also worked with us over several cohorts. So we've welcomed her back recently. Welcome, Aisha. Lovely to have you with us today. And we also have Vicky Papworth, and hopefully she'll be joining us shortly. She is the CEO of NatWest Social and Community Capital, which is an independent charity funded by NatWest, providing finance and hands-on support to social enterprises and community businesses that can't access mainstream finance. Vicky brings deep experience across philanthropy, strategic funding, and systems change work. And she and her team have been hosting multiple associates. In fact, NatWest has been with us since time began, and numerous cohorts, one after another. So she can really give you a different flavour and insight. And today really is all about lifting the lid on what it's really like to bring on purpose associates into your organization, not only as an extra pair of hands, but as a much needed part of a wider shift away from business as usual towards purposeful, imaginative, system shaping leadership. And our aim today is to help you understand the associate program offer, the kind of talent we're developing, and how associates can help your organization strengthen, accelerate, scale your impact. And you're going to hear directly from Aisha and Vicky about what prompted them to host, and what their associates are working on, and where they've seen the biggest impact. But first of all, I'd like to give you a quick overview of the program. So our mission here at On Purpose is not just to develop people, it's to transform the economy. Because the truth is, the economy we have isn't set up to sustain us in the long run. And we can see that all around us every day. It's become too extractive, too linear, too competitive, too focused on short-term gains at the expense of long-term well-being and health for people, communities, and also the planet. And organizations are feeling this every day: stretched teams, rising costs, rising complexity, and important work often falling to the bottom of the list. Across society, we can see that people are really feeling the strain. Environmentally, we're hitting real limits. Institutionally, we can see trust is really fragile, and economically, the system is out of balance. From our perspective On Purpose, incremental change is no longer enough. We really need transformation. And that transformation, I'm pleased to say, is already beginning, shifting from the narrow focus on profit to a broader mandate of purpose, stewardship, and contribution. And many of the organizations we work with today are already living this shift in beautiful, intentional ways. And we develop people to lead that change and help organizations move towards a healthier economic system, because we believe that people hold the key to that transformation. As many say, people got us in this mess, people can get us out of it. And that's where the associate program sits, at the intersection of human growth, human development, organizational change and transformation, and healthy systems thinking. So we're helping leaders and organizations navigate a world in which a world that urgently needs a different kind of leadership. Oh. And as I said earlier, our mission isn't to develop people, it's to help transform the economy. But we simply believe that the most powerful way to do that is through people. People who are supported, connected, equipped with the skills, the perspective to lead change from wherever it stands within the sector. So we've been going for over 16 years now. We're in London, Paris, and Berlin, and we've learned something simple, but we think quite profound, which is, if you find great people and you support them with the right knowledge, the right networks, amazing things can happen. And that's at the heart of the associate program. And hopefully, if you were to look around and see our fellows in the different places and spaces across the sector, you'd see that happening in real time. So who are our associates? They are exceptional mid-career professionals, typically with 7 to 10 years professional experience, and they are ready to use their experience to drive positive change. They are curious, resilient, adaptable. We'll hear more about that later. They should be great problem solvers, but they bring that breadth of experience to help you think differently. And what do we provide on purpose? What is that support that we give them? We give them a dedicated mentor, we give them a trained coach, and we have a Friday training session, a learning and development session to help them develop systemic thinking, and we support them with a cohort and a community, a wider community, to support them as they grow through the program and beyond. And all of this is designed to help them build the skills, the understanding, and the vision that we believe is necessary to bring about change. So what do? They have 2 6-month placements with organizations, and the associates themselves can bring their wealth of experience, their perspectives into real organizations, applying what they learn on our program and helping drive strategic projects and help teams and organizations unlock momentum. They bring a particular kind of energy, curiosity, which will help spark new ideas, a steadiness, a reliability, a safe pair of hands that can help teams breathe again, and hopefully strategic depth and problem solving to help move work forward. And while the program is carefully designed, the real transformation often happens in those everyday moments, the conversations, the collective learning experience, the experiments, the unexpected insight. And our model is intentionally different. It's not consultancy. It's not work experience like internship level capacity. It's about not just about some people say generic talent. These are bright generalists, sure, but they bring a wealth of experience and also quite a lot of stuff outside of that. That means that it's way more than that. It's about developing leaders who can help organizations shift towards healthier, purpose-led economic system. And we give them the conditions alongside you guys to help them bring about that change in real time. So this slide here gives you an overview of all of the organizations that we've been working with in 2025, and there's a lot. And since 2009, we've worked with more than 500 purpose-driven organizations, purpose-driven people across London, the UK, and outside of the UK too. And the one thing we've learned is it's not about the type of organization, it's about the opportunity that it presents. We believe that change is needed absolutely everywhere. So we work across different sectors with organizations seeking to unlock capacity and strengthen their impact. And as you'll see up here, it's public sector bodies like the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, the NHS. It's charities like NatWest Social and Community Capital, but also big charities like Save the Children, all the way down to place-based charities like All Child. It's commercial corporate organizations from the likes of eBay all the way down to climate-focused SMEs like Great Yellow. It's social enterprises intentionally challenging the status quo like Amplify. It's impact investors like our friends at Purposeful, LSE 100 Times, Better Society. And then it's networks and coalitions like C40 or BAFTA Albert's program. And what unites all of them isn't their structure, it's their intention. They're all, like us, trying to build healthier models of value, meaningful progress, and contribute positively to the system that they're part of. And the impact is really quite real. From an organizational perspective, we're told that by over 80% of the organizations we work with, that the associates they've worked with contribute significantly or extensively to the social environmental impact. And while all the organizations might look very different, they're all connected by something very shared. And together, we're all working together to make sure that change doesn't come from one place or one sector or one model. It comes from many people, many organizations, all of us pulling in the same direction. And our models are really simple, but it's intentionally different, as I mentioned before. So over the course of the year, you'd work with 2 associates, each for 6 months each. And that's really good because it gives you flexibility. So you can move the resource to focus on the areas that are of most important, where the needs of the business are. But they also come without the cost or the commitment of that permanent hire. We are on purpose, and in fact, we've just finished do all of that recruitment for you. We've got a very rigorous, competitive recruitment process, and we do all of the recruitment for you, so you don't need to. We find high caliber, capable people with the skills we believe are necessary to bring about change. And importantly, we support them so they can support you. That's the cornerstone of our model. And organizations typically use our associates in a number of different ways, or our program. Some organizations tell us that it's really important to move strategic priorities forward. So it might be work that matters to you, but often gets deprioritized as business as usual gets in the way, or something that needs resource quick. A great example of this would be C40. When the World Mayor Summit landed with them, our associate played a critical role supporting the coordination of that. Our associates can really strengthen your thinking. We regularly get told that they bring a diverse perspective, and they can often sort of shake up the way you look at things. And a great example here would be working with Mutual Value Labs, where Emma was 15 years as a social worker, worked with them to redefine their values and culture, their patterns and routines to align with their vision. She's now working with them as their organizational development and people manager. They might help you fill a critical skills gap. Maybe you've gone through the recruitment process and somebody's dropped out last moment, or possibly maybe, as Aisha will talk about, where you might have somebody stepping up as an interim support whilst you look to find and recruit somebody, or the needs to develop a role before you've really defined what it might look like. And it can also help you evaluate future talent. So these people all let go of their sort of safety and security of their previous professions to join the programme, and ultimately they're ready to find their new place in the sector after. Many of the people that we work with tell us that they might have missed these people on the open market, or some of them tell us we just wouldn't attract these people to us. They wouldn't recognise our brand. So it might be people that you wouldn't necessarily find yourselves. And what you'll tend to find if you look around different parts of the sector is some people have used this very intentionally to bring people into the organisation. Ellen MacArthur Foundation, B Corp, Fair for All are all hosting many of our fellows now as permanent members of their team. And I think the guys at Impact on Urban Health have about 10 of the people in their 50-person team recruited through the programme. And as this testimonial says from Camilla at Amplify Goods, it can be really quite game-changing. The associates bring a combination of energy, passion, strategic thinking, problem solving that hopefully makes things possible that might not have happened otherwise. So what's your role in all of this? So as a placement host, the associates would spend 4.5 days a week with you in placement. And in that time, you, the placement host, would provide them so much. You provide them with the purpose, the challenge and the opportunity. You play a vital role to help them unleash their full potential and turn that into real impact. And not just for them as people, as associates, as leaders of the future, but also for your organisation and for the wider economy we're all working to shift. So today is not just about understanding what it's really like to bring associates into your organisation. It's really understanding that from in practice. And that's why we're joined by Aisha, and hopefully Vicky now as well, who are hosting associates right now and who have hosted them before. And in a moment, they're going to share with you why they decided to host, what their associates are working on, and where they've had the biggest impact. I normally find that these conversations are the most meaningful part of any session because they open a window into what it's really like on a day-to-day, and what genuinely happens when high caliber people are supported to do that important work that hopefully you believe needs focus. So if I'm just going to have a little look to see if we've got Aisha with us. Yes, and Vicky, is she with us now as well, Jose?
She's been having tech issues. She's going to try on her phone. So
Okay, well, in the meanwhile, I'm just going to get going if that's all right, Aisha. We've got you all to ourselves then, just you and I. We're going to start with some questions that I'd like to ask you just to sort of uncover some of that stuff. And then the aim is that we'll also be able to open up to all of you who've decided to join us today and see if there's any questions that you've got like burning that you want to ask. Yeah, I've structured this conversation around the moments that hosts tell us matter, and let's start where it all begins. The decision to host. So as I mentioned earlier, placement hosts regularly tell us that bringing in our associates can help drive forward important projects that get sidelined, scope or build the business case for a new role, or bridge skills gaps. So just thinking about you, your organisation, I'd like to know, why did you decide to bring an on-purpose associate into the organisation? And if you hadn't, what have you done? What would you have done instead?
Great. This time round, there were two reasons why we brought in associates. So one was to bridge a skills gap. So as Leah hinted at a minute ago, I was recruiting for a head of finance, but I knew that even, I was early in the recruitment process. So I was probably at least 6 months away from having somebody in place and joining the team. So bringing on an associate was a good way of filling that gap and bringing in some specific skills more quickly than I was able to through the permanent recruitment, who'd be able to support with continuing to move that work forwards. And then our other reason is that we do a lot of recruiting, and this is an additional channel. So we have two associates, one in the finance team and one who has joined our ventures team. And we were able to find, I guess, an additional person to join that team who matched really well our usual, I guess, profile for the type of role that she is doing, but hadn't heard of us. So On Purpose was a really good, I guess, matching organization to match us up with her and her with us.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've heard before, kind of like being able to sort of both open the eyes of the associates themselves to organizations doing important work. So a number of our associates will see organizations we're working with, and that almost kind of gives them the door to sort of like go and start those conversations after the program's finished. Sometimes they don't get the opportunity to work with you, but it gives them an opportunity to hear a bit more about the work that you're doing. But I think that's really interesting. You talked there as well about kind of when you had the interim role. And again, that's something that I've heard quite a bit about, which is it can be quite useful to sort of fill in those gaps. We've also had people fill in gaps for like maternity cover, or something like, or sabbaticals. So it can kind of bridge it in that way as well. So that's really interesting to hear that reflected. I'm glad we've been able to help in that way. So I'm going to move on to the other question, really, which is kind of almost sort of digging in a little bit more to understand what Sam and Vicky.
Hello.
I just spotted you. Hello.
Apologies. Always the technical troubles, right?
Yeah, don't worry about it. You're here, and that's great. It's really brilliant to have you with us. Thank you so much for persevering. Lovely.
My pleasure. It's always such a joy to talk about the On Purpose programme because it brings such value to us as an organisation. So delighted to share a bit of our thinking with you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I gave an introduction for you at the beginning. Hopefully I did you credit. And I've just moved into some questions, and me and Aisha have just been talking about the first one, which was more around the decision to host. And I know with you guys, you've hosted with us for like numerous years now on a rolling basis, actually. So that's been kind of quite a different flavour to the picture that Aisha's just painted. So would you mind if I just give you a question? I know you've only just arrived. It feels like not giving you a moment to breathe.
No, not at all. It's fine. If you're finished.
Yep, go ahead.
So we were just talking about, like, I was saying yeah, basically, why did you decide to bring in an associate? And if you hadn't, what would you do instead?
Oh gosh, like what would we have done instead? I mean, I think the extra pair of hands is not as important as the different perspective. So I don't know what we would have done without having an on purpose associate. And as you said, Leah, we've had so many for each of your cohorts now. It feels like you're a full-time member of our team.
Oh.
And we're a small team. We're a social investor, so we make loans out to charities and social enterprises across the UK. But we have a really big remit. We want to enable social enterprises to make a huge and positive difference and impact in UK communities. So having that capacity for strategic projects, as well as that extra pair of hands, just feels that it was absolutely key. And without an associate, I think we would have delayed those really thoughtful, impactful projects, or stretched the team, or lost momentum, all of those areas where the energy and the fresh thinking is as important as the extra pair of hands.
Yeah, and you really get a flavour for that, right? Because you've got the kind of like continuation where you really start to see the diversity because you have different people coming every 6 months. It really does mean you get quite a different flavour on, which I know part of it often is one stream of work, but yeah, fascinating.
And we always try to make sure, as I'm sure all the hosts do, that there are separate standalone projects which the associates can engage with, because it's really important that they do something which they themselves feel is adding some value to the organisation. But also, sort of seeing the engagement that they have with the programme, their Friday afternoon thinking sessions. It's lovely to have that brought back to us as a team. And so it helps us to challenge our own assumptions, I think, about how we work and just to explore new approaches and how we might do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, oh, that's great to hear. So I'm going to kind of move us on to the next part of it, because I want to make sure that we leave some nice space for people to ask their own questions. But I'd love you to, why don't we, whilst we've got you here, just stay with you for a moment to think about your current associate. Like, how would you describe them? And you've started to tell us a little bit about what type of work do you think that would particularly work well. I mean, we know when we find people, they're like motivated, socially motivated, passionate people. We do look for people who are like bright generalists, which always sometimes has a bit of a, like, it's a bit of a, some people love them, some people don't, but ultimately we're looking for people who can kind of turn their hand to anything, drop into anything, but equally so bring their diverse backgrounds and experience and the stuff from the program, as you said, into your organisation. Can you tell us a little bit more about your associate and what type of work they're working on?
Yeah, and I think having come from a fairly squiggly career in all various sectors and different parts of the impact economy, I really value that the associates have come from a variety of different roles and are looking to build out different skills. I would say that all of our associates have been proactive and incredibly adaptable and, really, really quick to build relationships, which I think is key when you're in a role for a relatively short amount of time. And quick to build relationships, not just with us as the team, but also with our stakeholders, sort of internally and externally. And our current associate is no different. And in fact, he already knows one of our trustees, which was a lovely surprise. So I felt that he kind of got to know our processes and our governance, as well as some of the more day-to-day delivery. Yeah. And I think for us, the main value I think that the associates bring from a thinking perspective is that they do all seem to combine that very thoughtful strategic thinking with a hands-on delivery, and that is, it's invaluable for a small team. And if I think about the kinds of roles that they've taken on, the kinds of projects that they've delivered, they have mapped partnerships. We often have them working to design and deliver our impact reporting. They shape the communication. So these are all areas where it feels that flexibility and that creativity and that curiosity really, really matters. And in fact, I think it is that strategy and hands-on and analysis and creativity. And that's a lot to ask for someone. If I was recruiting for a full-time member of staff and I got that, I would be absolutely delighted. So the fact that comes in, with our two associates, in a 6-month placement, it really helps bring our ideas to life.
Yeah, that's really lovely to hear. And that's kind of like one of the ways kind of part of the recruitment process. We are looking for people who can do all of that, which I'm sure, Aisha, you'll be familiar with. Part of the recruitment process does do a case study analysis, you know, so it's some of that stuff that's born out of the consultancy space, right? Being able to sort of like understand problems, break them down, think strategically, analyze info, be creative, stuff that I'm sure that you've got in spades. But yeah, can you just tell us a little bit more about, obviously you've got 2 associates working with you at the moment. Can you just give us a little bit more of a sort of like overview of who they are, how you would describe them, and again, like any work that you think works particularly well for an associate?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 2. There's Andy, who works in our finance team, and his background is in audit and I guess a degree of like system change and implementation. So on the surface, he probably wouldn't have looked, probably his CV we might not have looked at in depth for the role that we had because he didn't have direct experience, but he's able to do it really well. So I think that's one of the benefits of this program, is that it gives people an opportunity to show up in a way that they may not have come across if you'd only had them on paper. Then our other associate, Sam, she works in our ventures team. Her background's in consulting. She's been at one of the big consulting firms, then also at Disney in their strategy team. And that's, as I say, that's a profile that's pretty well aligned with our ventures team. And then the great thing about both of them is that because this is like an inflection for their own careers, they're doing this because they want to pivot. They're super keen, super motivated, really want to get involved, very much want to, I guess, do work well, stretch into things, to be proactive, which are all things that we like absolutely value. And because they see this, I guess, it's a short window where they're investing in themselves and developing their skills. They want to take every opportunity that's open to them. So when Andy came in, he was like keen to stretch as far as possible. And I was like, well, seat's vacant at the moment. Take on as much of it as you feel that you can do. And he was keen to see that, I guess, as a challenge and an opportunity, which was fantastic from my perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Hands up people who are really wanting to get stuck into things. We hear that quite a lot. And it's lovely to hear those 2 different perspectives, giving a real flavour of the different types of people that might join the program, but also how they might sit in different areas of the business. And I was also thrilled to see that Sam's also now collaborating with one of our other placement hosts through the work with you. So that's very exciting to sort of see those that network really at play.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got one other question that I wanted to ask. So we're often told, and I know I mentioned some of the examples earlier about the sort of lasting legacy of the On Purpose associates. Like you said, Aisha, they're there for a short amount of time. Potentially they get pulled back into the organization afterwards, but they don't quite know that bit yet. So during their time, they're really trying to make their mark. And we've given some examples earlier. I know people have contributed to policy change and built frameworks and systems that guide organizations long after the associates left. And also, Vicky, you were talking there about that impact report, which has been sort of housed with associates for some time now. Obviously, every host's experience is different. Value shows up in different ways. But just thinking about your experience, we'll just stay with you, Aisha. You're right there on my screen. But you know, what outcomes have they helped you unlock? Where have you seen the biggest impact?
So I've worked most closely with Andy of the 2 associates that we have, and I guess, well, one, he brought in a different skill set and expertise to what we had in the team. So that, I guess, understanding of audit and finance, helping to structure some of our reporting, and it's an iterative process, but he took it another step further onwards. So doing things, I guess, both things that we didn't fully have the skill set for in-house, and also, honestly, an additional pair of hands was, of course, really helpful. There's lots of things that I'd wanted to be doing, but didn't have, I guess, the capacity on the team to get done. So having an extra person in the team obviously gives you that additional capacity as well. And I'd say that the thing that I feel has worked best and what has made this round particularly a success is being able to align the things that we want to existing skill sets that the associates have, and being able to build on what they are able to do, as well as giving them opportunities to try out things that they may not otherwise have done. But rooting it firmly in an expertise that they have, which means that they're definitely able to contribute pretty quickly at a pretty high level.
Yeah. It's that combination between sort of finding stuff that's in somebody's comfort zone that can add real value, can build up a level of trust, and then being able to quickly move on to the areas of stretch, or maybe where they've got like passion or sort of interest in, where they can sort of explore and challenge themselves a little bit more. So yeah, I totally agree with you. We always talk about that value exchange, which of course you hope would happen in any situation, any employee agreement, but ultimately I think the program is quite different in the way that it's set up for that. Vicky, tell us a little bit more about your experience, like, and the associates. Like, what do you think's been sort of, what have they helped you unlock, and where have you seen the biggest impact?
And I really love that phrase, the value exchange, Leah, and I think that's absolutely right. But framing it in that way helps us to understand, I think, both, what we're contributing to them as the associates are on their journey to a new career, but also what they're contributing to us. And building on what Aisha said, that alignment with skill sets feels like it's really important. Mm-hmm. And the work that we do, as I said, we've always tried to make sure it's a real separate standalone project that has real impact. But it's work that we would have to do anyway. Communicating our impact is key for us, but the associates have helped us accelerate those projects that really strengthen that story of impact and the way and the levels to which we can reach out to our audience. So that feels absolutely key. Mm. And so for some of the specifics, associates have introduced new ways to present data visually, which has been incredibly helpful, and tell stories that really resonate with some of our potential investees. So when we're talking about our stories, we want to talk to the wider impact economy and to help other organizations understand the value of social finance and the value of social finance as opposed to grant receiving. But we also want to showcase that to other organizations and other social lenders. Yeah. So whether it is, mapping underserved communities or helping us to build a more confident voice online, all of this increases visibility and engagement within our networks and with our potential investees. And I would say, whilst we have had great value from the associates in measuring the impact, in many ways it's that communicating it, which feels to me to be the more important issue. So part of my role, part of our role here is not just to make the loans out to organisations that are looking to scale their impact or test out new projects or buy a building or use some growth capital, but to demystify the concept of social lending and to help build a more effective and accessible and inclusive social impact economy. And so those clear outcomes and the clear communication of those outcomes and the peer-led voices of our investees saying we took on a loan and it was absolutely brilliant. Yes, we had to pay it back, but they were really flexible and they really understood us. And it was better than a grant because we could do whatever we wanted with it. Building that trust and confidence it shows real tangible outcomes and it encourages more participation in the wider social economy. And that can only be a better thing.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing all of that with us, Vicky. I'm really conscious of time and I want to leave a bit of time for some questions. We can sort of so I'm going to try and bring it to a sort of a bit more of a roundup. So I'm going to ask you both, if you could describe the On Purpose experience in one sentence for senior leaders like those on this call, what would you say? And Aisha, I can see your mic's on, so let's start with you.
Sure. I guess it's an opportunity to work with exceptional individuals.
Love. Thank you. And what about you, Vicky?
I would say that as a host, the associates just bring a huge surge of energy and a culture of curiosity into the team, which is a momentum that lifts everyone.
Oh, I love it. Exceptional talent and momentum. So I'm going to stop us there and just see, Josie, have we got any questions? Has anyone out there got any questions? I've got
yeah,
some.
There's some on the Q&A and some on the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so how are the associates onboarded to fully understand how the company works? What do they do and why the placement is just for 6 months? I can answer the 6 months part, but let's just start with how are they onboarded to understand how the company works? Aisha, Vicky, either of you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, I onboard them in the same way as we onboard other members of staff. So aim to have set expectations at the start, have a line manager. We do a big piece of our onboarding is getting to know Purposeful, getting to know the wider organization and the team. So they'll go through all of that just as any other team member would do. And then I guess the key around them being on placements is trying to be very intentional about what is the piece of work that they're going to be doing and having as much clarity as possible so that it's something that they can make like real traction with in the time that they have.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Vicky, have you got something to build on that?
Only a very slight add, because I think that's covered off everything that we do as well, Aisha. But just to say, aligning their work with our values and with our purpose is a piece of work that we very intentionally do at the beginning, as I'm sure all of the hosts do. And that feels like that's a really valuable grounding for them as they get to know us.
Yeah, I mean, and we also really encourage, so we have an induction ourselves where we kind of introduce them to the broader network and support that they've got from On Purpose. But we also encourage sort of early on after the onboarding sort of moment, few weeks, 4 weeks maybe, that there's a process of sitting down and discussing the sort of needs of the organization and also the needs of the individual and how those two things can be brought together, hopefully in a meaningful way. In terms of the 6-month element of it, it's 6 months on purpose from an on purpose perspective to give people variety, to give them different experiences, much like they do in teacher training. It can give you kind of an understanding from different perspectives. Ultimately, the associates are trying to find their place in the sector. That said, we have done 12-month placements before. That's something that would need discussion. It's a very new kind of process for us. So I'm going to move on to the next question. It says, I can see that On Purpose works similarly to Fast Streamer program for civil service, but it seems to be more hands-on with choosing the right associate fit. I don't know much about the Fast Streamer program, but the matching process that we go through in order to find the associate placement fit is one that's, I don't have time to talk through in great detail at this moment, but I don't know if that's similar. Does anyone else here have Fast Streamer experience that they can bring to the call?
I think do they rotate through a series of placements? So we have, so at NatWest, there are graduate roles which do something similar, 6-month placements in different teams to really get a flavour, not just of the different skills that you might develop, but I think also to understand what you don't like, which is as important as what you do like, right?
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
And maybe just a reflection on the matching process, which I think is very hands-on and has meant, I would say, that we have ended up with people that are really well suited for us because we are a small team. You know, we're doing quite a specialist piece of work. Like getting the right person feels absolutely key. And that doesn't necessarily mean someone who's got experience within lending or within, you know, the same sort of space, but it does mean someone who knows what they want to get out of the placement and that we know what we need as well. And the work that On Purpose put into that process is really evident, I think, from a host perspective, and just makes it feel, well, perhaps not seamless. I mean, it's quite an intense process from a host perspective, but it certainly adds value, I think.
Yeah, it is a very intense process. It takes us weeks and weeks to go through that. And there's a couple of different stages to it. It's definitely something that's kind of got the grounding of sort of like data, algorithms, etc. Lots of human sort of screening as well. Aisha, did you have something to build into that?
Oh, in terms of how they're selected, or
I just saw that you'd taken your
I just haven't had it on mute because I'm in a phone booth, so it's quiet. So unless you're getting background noise, I tend to just unmute it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, I've got another question here, so I'm going to move on to that. It said it would be good to really understand what support we get as a placement host hosting an associate. For example, what about challenges if things don't work out? So we have a process in place specifically for that. So aside from us supporting them our side in terms of like mentoring, coaching, etc., and that wider community, we also have sort of check-ins. So whilst the associates are placed within the organisation and they have a line manager and they are treated like a normal employee, we do have check-ins to sort of see that things are working well, and then a process to help support them if things aren't. And part of our contractual agreement means that if we can't, we give them a chance. We hear things from both sides. We give them a chance, hopefully, to make things good. And if they can't make things good, then we have a process for them leaving the placement organisation, and we also would not charge a fee if that situation arose. So there's a safety net in there, but we do hope that with the right support we can help people kind of like bring it back and turn things around themselves. I think, Josie, unless I've missed something. Oh, okay, and somebody here, okay, I've just seen in the chat, so I've just gone on the Q&A. Thank you for
perhaps just while Leah's reading through the question, which I think is a question about resourcing from a host perspective, what I would say is there are some challenges around taking 6-month placements, and I think it's right to be honest about that, because people come in and you're kind of getting them up to speed and spending time doing that. But nonetheless, I think it is time well spent, and I think it's a resource that is really, really helpful for us and great learning for them.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've just opened the webinar chat and I can see one at the bottom there, which is about the cost. So yeah, I appreciate that wasn't on there. So the cost to host them, it's a salary cost, which is a sort of FTE pro rata, depending on how long they're with you, of just over 27 grand. That goes direct to the associates themselves, and then we charge a fee on top of that, and that comes to On Purpose so we can run the program, our big hordes of volunteers and pro bono and learning, etc. And that starts from 8 grand and goes all the way up to 17, 18 grand. So it depends on the size, the legal structure of the organisation. And again, happy to have a conversation about your organisation specifically. I've got a question here about the thinking skills you see most in demand from businesses today. Yeah, and how do we think that's changed in recent years? Vicky, Aisha, I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Shall I jump in, Aisha, just while you're getting your microphone off? I think that for us, like a sense of creativity combined where possible with some rational analysis skills feels like that's really key for us right now. And I think if you've got someone who's got that mix of both, then they are more likely to be able to hit the ground running. And I would say over the course of the various associates that we've gathered through the programme, those people who have those skills are the ones who have landed most solidly.
Yeah. And Aisha, your perspective on that?
Look for people who are proactive, good problem solvers, bring in an owner mindset, value relationships and are good at building relationships quickly. I guess the problem solving and the owner mindset is that they need to be able to figure stuff out and to figure stuff, like feel responsible for figuring things out themselves. We want them to be accountable. We want them to be fast learners. Like, we don't necessarily expect people to know everything, but we do want people to be able to learn quickly. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah. And like, we're often told, like, the motivation, the will, the sort of passion, which can take you a long way. And a lot of the stuff we hope to develop, like a lot of the skills and stuff, like problem solving, for example, is a part of the program. Some come with that, like Sam, someone from a consultancy background, but others learn that, and we develop those things as we go. I'm really aware of time. We've got a few minutes over. I just wanted to just bring you on to a very quick sort of next slide here. It's the practical bit in many ways, but like, if you're interested in hosting, you can like scan the codes or get in contact with me. But this just gives you a very broad overview of the timeline. We shut the cohort at the end of Feb and we start the matching process, and the placement would begin with you at the beginning mid-April. And just to sort of leave you finally, if you're not one who's interested in using a scan code, you can take down my email there, or you can find my contact details, contact us on our website. We would love to hear from you if you're interested. We really want to work with organisations. We don't expect everyone to have all the answers, but we really do need people like you and to help us work with associates and bring you much value across the year. And finally, just wanted to say a huge thank you to Aisha and also to Vicky for joining us today and for giving us your lunch break. It's been really lovely to hear your perspectives a bit more fully. Thank you for taking the time, and thanks everyone for joining us over your lunch hour. I will leave things there. Thanks, everyone. Bye.